Now, we are tripart beings made in the image of God to be in union with Father, Son, and Spirit. We have gateways that connect our spirit, soul, and body that facilitate the flow of abundant life within us. And most of you will probably be familiar with the gateway diagram. And usually it is 4 concentric circles, one inside the other, inside the other, inside the other. And they represent body, soul, spirit, and the glory of God, that place of first love within the center of our spirit. Now, the body is how we experience world consciousness. We can have the gates of our body, the senses, 5 physical senses, our eye gate, nose gate, ear gate, mouth gate, feel gate. There are senses, and they're designed to help us interact with the world, but they're not designed to interpret what we experience in the world from the outside in without spiritual discernment. If we just go with what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste or touch, those things can deceive us if they're not interpreted in the right way. Now, our soul is our self-consciousness, how we become self-aware and conscious of who we are. Now, again, the soul has functions that help with our self-consciousness, but they're not designed to be operating from the information that comes from the outside in, and they're not designed to operate independently of the revelation that comes from the relationship of God within the spirit. But the soul gates, conscience, reason, imagination, mind, unconscious, subconscious, conscious, emotions, choice, and will, if operating independently, can lead to total independence and the creating of our own identity through what we do and from the programming that we've received through the world. Then we have our spirit that has also abilities or senses, gates, that are supposed to interact together with what flows from the place of first love where God's glory resides within. That is the place where the river of life, where the life energy, where spirit flows to touch through the different senses of the spirit, to touch the soul, to engage with our whole being so that we are aware only of the world through the reference point of viewing it through the spirit. Now, that's what Adam started like. He started only experiencing the physical world and realm through the discernment of the spirit because he was clothed with the spiritual glory of his identity in relationship with God because they were in that union of relationship. Now, when we have now the state where everything internalized, rather than having a walking relationship with God in the garden, now God's presence is within our spirit. Our spirit is within our body, and our body relates to the world. Now, that is the picture that you get from these 4 concentric circles. But actually, that is not the full picture and not the full reality. It's helpful to help us understand that there is an interaction. We have spirit gates, our communication gate or prayer gate, fear of God gate, which is not being afraid of God, but having a sense of awe and relationship with him, intuition, revelation, worship, hope, faith, reverence. And each of them relates to the soul gates. So reverence and fear of God engage our conscience. The other communication can come through intuition or revelation. And we have this sense of worship in which our relationship with God helps us to engage the world around us from a perspective of, like Jesus, only doing what we see the Father doing. But there is more to it than this. Rather than the 2-dimensional perspective of 4 concentric circles, we are connected, I believe, more like 3 spheres. And the spheres are spirit, soul, and body, and those spheres are overlapping and connecting with each other. The spirit and the soul overlap, the spirit and the body overlap, the soul and the body overlap, but there is a place, our innermost being, where spirit, soul, and body are connected. And that is our core innermost place where the union with Father, Son, and Spirit takes place.
This is an excerpt from Mike's current teaching series, Restoring First Love. Get the full-length videos every month only at eg.freedomark.org/first-love.
Now, our first gate, our first love gate, is within our spirit. But because it's connected to the soul, there can be a flow of life from spirit to soul. And God, who is within our spirit, can, if we choose to allow him, fill our soul. We start intimacy in that place of first love by opening the gate, but it spreads through our soul to our very core, and that becomes the center of our being. The source comes from the spirit, the river of life, presence of God, whichever way you want to put it. Our innermost being is where we are in union with Father, Son, and Spirit, and heaven connects to earth in the Merkaba within our core being, and we are connected to heaven and lots of other places, because the connection we have from spirit to soul is a quantum entanglement, which enables our spirit to be anywhere, but still connected to our soul and instantly in relationship. Now, at the core of in our spirit, we have the glory of God's presence within this first love gateway. And there is an area where God dwells within all of us, with all mankind. But that gateway often is closed, and what is coming from that gate is a trickle under the threshold of the gate, like in the temple, which is described in Ezekiel, which had a flow, a trickle, but then it began to get deeper, ankle deep, knee deep, waist deep, until it was completely out of our depths. And this is what God would like us to be, absolutely, completely filled with his presence, saturated with love, saturated with life. But we have the choice to open that gate. And that becomes a choice which we can take every single day. And my experience with this was where I really first began to get to know God in a deeper way. Every day I would choose to open that first love gate. God's presence, maybe Father, Son, Spirit, or all three, would embrace me. And I would receive that hug and would then begin to go wherever led. And that flow often took me into my soul. Originally, when I looked at these soul gates and body gates and spirit gates, I walked with Jesus to each gate, asked him to help me understand how I function, who I am. Because, we're all different and we're all uniquely made and we function differently. So their interaction between these different gateways are unique. No one is exactly the same. So I walked through the gates. I learned to understand myself. I learned to understand why they were blocked and why there might not be a flow. For some people, when they first start to engage this sort of place of first love, it can appear like that first love gate is absolutely, completely chained up, locked. You can't open it. Some people have described seeing it covered with brambles, inaccessible. They just couldn't open it. Now, the reality is that is not the truth. That is a deception of the soul by projecting that image onto that first love gate because of fear, because of trauma, because of other reasons why we might be afraid of intimacy, or why we might be afraid to let go of control and invite God to be God in us. So there are reasons why that might be, but in reality, they're not true. Even though they might be our perspective and we might struggle with opening that gateway, the fact is we have the choice because the handle is on our side. There isn't a handle on the other side. There is just handles on the side that we can choose to open it. So the first love gate, when opened, releases an increasing flow of life. It goes beyond the trickle. Most of us have lived on a trickle for most of our lives. We want it to be an absolute flood. That flood can energize us at the core of our being. It can energize us within the energy gates through the Merkaba, and we can have unlimited energy, which leads to, as we've seen before, immortal life. God loves you. right now, His love is surrounding you. Breathe in and breathe out the unconditional love of the Father. You're breathing it in. You're taking it internally. It's flowing in you. So just become still. Picture a door. Picture the door of first love within your spirit. If you struggle to picture or think of a door, think of one which you know really well, your front door, a door you're familiar with. Just begin to imagine that door. Picture it. Jesus is knocking, and by your choice, you can open the door. If you open that door, He is going to come, and you're going to experience His presence. Reach out in your imagination by choice and open the door. And just welcome the presence of Father, Son, and Spirit, that they might surround you. You might be in their very midst as they embrace you, hug you, entwine with you, come into a union, a deeper relationship. Stay in that embrace. The Father, Jesus, they may speak to you. They may whisper into your ear. Stay in that place of rest, that place of intimacy.